It's big. It's massive. It has been compared to an anchor for a seaworthy vessel. And it's kinda comfy. The Duke is Hyperkin's homage to the original Xbox controller design with extra functionality that brings it into the modern space for PC and Xbox One. But how does it perform? Let's take a closer look. Alright, so let's talk a bit about the Duke. The Duke is available right now for $69.99 USD on hyperkinlabs.com. It's also available at other places such as Walmart, EB Games, Amazon, most places that you can buy electronics. It is at its core an Xbox One controller. So all of the inputs required to play Xbox One games are on this controller. What's interesting is that, much like the original Duke controller, it doesn't have a typical diamond configuration for its buttons. It has kind of like a double column structure, where the A, B, and black buttons are one, and the X, Y, and white buttons are another. And it is kind of weird. The black and white buttons are actually mapped over to the left and right bumpers. Then, of course, the triggers act as they normally would. But as you can see here, Ease Origin seems to work pretty well with the configuration that it boasts. It's not a particularly demanding game when it comes down to its control setup, but it definitely works. Right now I'm using the analog stick. The D-pad also works, as you can see here. What's really interesting about this game in particular is that the right analog stick can also be used to move. There's no L or R functions mapped right now. Side note, this game is really well optimized. This is as good as it can possibly look. So this might be a series that I might be interested in streaming at some point. You know, I kind of noticed something here. The placement of these buttons makes it really easy to reach across to a button that normally I'd have a hard time with a diamond configuration. So right now I'm holding X to charge my special attack. This special allows me to float a little bit over large distances, and the B button is the one used for jump here. So normally this would be pretty difficult to reach over without pressing anything else, but the Duke's configuration actually makes it a bit easier. That's kind of interesting. Now, the Duke controller may be an Xbox One controller at its core, but because it's a wired controller, it's probably better suited for PC games such as these. We don't even have an Xbox One here, and we are putting this controller to good use regardless, just because of its flexibility in Windows 10. One neat feature about the Duke is, of course, its central Xbox button, which is actually a screen that displays the original Xbox startup. And, well, we're not sure if this could be modified in any way to display anything else. It is a nice touch. But yeah, it clicks in just like an Xbox button on any other pad, so it brings up the Windows 10 game bar and all that fun stuff, so that players can access recording features and various other game options at the press of a button. So that's pretty handy too. Yeah, the power of the Duke. Now, one game that we had a lot of fun with was Assault Android Cactus, and this is a great opportunity to play a twin-stick shooter with the Duke. And this is running on PC under maximum settings. It's running fine on my screen, but the record might be missing a few frames here and there. On the whole, the controller is very responsive. You can pretty much aim in any direction, which is nice. The left and right analog sticks on the Duke, much like the original Xbox controller, are asymmetrical as well. So not only are they in different positions from each other as opposed to something like the DualShock controller, but the sticks themselves have a slightly different design to them. So the little divot on the right analog stick is smaller than the one on the left. But despite this, it still works really well. The triggers on the controller also have a nice satisfying give to them. There's a bit of travel, of course, but it's nothing that's like too extreme that'll prevent you from prevent you from doing what you really want to do with them. Like in this case here, I can switch over to Cactus's flamethrower or the alternate weapon on any other character just by pressing the trigger, and it's fast enough. The bumpers, of course, are a little out of the way. They're smaller. They're oddly positioned on top of the controller and maybe not immediately above the triggers. But in this situation, anyways, it's not a big deal. They do exactly the same thing. The triggers and bumpers do exactly the same thing as each other in this instance, so it's not such a big deal. Keen-eyed viewers might notice that Cactus's proportions are a little different. And we're not sure if it was in the original or not, but the Plus version, which was made available on PC through an update, added realistic proportions to the androids, which is pretty neat. Yeah, definitely a fun game for sure. And the Duke, it's got some good rumble to it too, so when you end up getting hit or if you get knocked down, you really do feel it. There's a good amount of punch to the rumble in the handles here, so it's pretty good. But I never thought that the Duke in general would be a very comfortable controller, but the Hyperkin Duke definitely proves me wrong. Pretty good stuff. For a while I was using the 8BitDo SN30 Pro for my twin stick needs, and yeah, this definitely does a better job at controlling games like this for sure. So we play a lot of Final Fantasy XIV, and we've done some streams in the past, although they weren't particularly popular. But the Duke does a really good job of allowing us to control our characters in an efficient manner. Once again, this is a game that I used to use the 8BitDo SN30 Pro for, because of course it has the two analog sticks, but like the meaty nature of the Duke is more comfortable, I think, for long haul gaming. Let's go into some combat here and we'll show you how the triggers work. So, just so you know, the Duke's triggers are interestingly sort of positioned. You've got your main triggers here, which allow you to select different sides of your commands. And then you've got the little ones up here. These are the bumpers. And this is a new addition to the Duke from the original. So these guys here allow you to change your sets. So if you hold it down and press a button, you can choose a set. But like this tiny button here is really out of the way when compared to the actual triggers down here. So it can be problematic in really stressful situations, but like generally speaking, it works. For a while there, I was using the Razer Sabertooth, and that actually has switches on the bottom of the controller, and it was pretty comfortable, but the rubberized coating kind of got really gross over time, and I didn't really like it. So, plus the micro switches, they felt a little off after a couple years, so I wasn't too thrilled with that. But like this feels a lot better overall, I think, than even the Sabertooth. And as you can see, it's, you know, the controller is doing the job. Let's get into another battle here and just switch between some sets. So this is just like basic combat stuff, but like I've got Bard specific abilities over here, so switching over to these ones here allows me to fill that little gauge underneath the staff there, as you can see. So once that gets to 3, And I'll attack another thing here to maybe get that going here. There we go. Okay, I'll get this guy here with Pitch Perfect, which is activated when those are lit up. So the more of those you have, the better your attack is going to be. There's also this one here, which allows you to increase the amount of attacks you can get in a certain amount of time. So the more of those music notes that are lit up, the faster your stuff will recharge, as you can see. So it's pretty handy. I really like using Bard because you can move around while you're being attacked. So area of effect, it really isn't an issue. You can get out of the way and sort of channel your inner shmup. It's pretty cool. Look at this thing over here. This big ass bird. Alright, I know you all want to see some shmups, so let's take a look at one of my favorite ones in recent memory. This is Steriden, Binary Stars. This got an update on PC after the Switch version dropped. One thing that I have noticed about Steriden is that, well, this happens. The controller is vibrating. It's going. It's really going. Don't know why this happens with this game. I think it's an oversight on their part because no other game does this. There we go. Unplugging it and plugging it back in does work, though. So, I'm going to go to the Fortress here. The Fortress is effective. It's got missiles. It can move. So here we go. Steriden. Now, Steriden also has, as you can see here, analog-based movement, so you can be really precise with it if you need to be. And here we go. So yeah, this game is best played with an analog stick, and although that might sound sacrilegious to some, it definitely works better in this game than others. Wish I had a better weapon taking heavy damage, but take that, buddy. What now? So this is another game where like everything is in a good spot on the Duke, so everything that happens in this game is pretty much oh yeah, definitely get that here. Everything that happens in the game with regards to inputs is going to be good. And again, because analog works best on this game here, having a decent analog stick is obviously a must. Please bear in mind that I am not especially good at this game, even though it is a lot of fun. Charger. Ooh, cool. I haven't had this weapon yet. That's pretty nifty. Alright, I'm definitely going to use this. Let's go. Buddy. Oof. Oh, the bigger the better. What up? Yeah, this weapon's definitely doing the job. Holy cow. Yes. No, that's not bad at all. Cool. We're gonna, I think, get some heavy armor here. What up? I think that blast shoots a bunch of stuff that hits other things. Yeah, it does. Wicked. What is this garbage here? Hyper shotgun? Alright, let's go. This hyper shotgun is kind of ridiculous. Oh my god. Death. And that's the last time I'll ever see that combination. Oh, pretty good though. Not bad. But I'm dead, and that means this. Oh well. Weird. Anybody will tell you that playing a cave game requires a decent control setup. Usually people play with arcade sticks, but I prefer good D-pad. And the Duke seems to have one, although it is quite a bit more unconventional than others that we've used in the past. The Duke has this weird bumpy disc in place of like a cross. But I mean, it does the job. The odd placement of the buttons don't really affect me that much in this particular title. Games like Final Fantasy, this took a bit of getting used to because other controllers had a more traditional diamond shape to the buttons, and this is more like a double column So, it is what it is, but, oof. I think the thing that makes this D-pad alright is that, underneath, it's kind of semi-clicky. It's not squishy. Especially with a gamepad like the Xbox 360 pad, it was a little mushy to press the D-pad down on the disc, but in this case here, it's fairly easy to tell when you're pressing a button. There you go. If that doesn't show that the D-pad works well, I don't know what will. That's the kind of sneaking through that you need really good control for there. So simpler games like Infinite's Gaiden obviously benefit from the use of a good D-pad. And once again, the circle pad on the Duke, that weird bumpy disc, does the job thanks to whatever is underneath it. It does have, once again, like a really clicky feel underneath the buttons, which makes it feel pretty responsive. Unlike stuff like the Xbox 360 controller. And this is a pretty cool game too. Like, I wish I had played this earlier on. And as is the case with most other shooters, the lack of a diamond orientation for the buttons isn't much of a problem either. So finding the right button is not that difficult when it comes down to brass tacks. So yeah, I don't know. Insofar as I can tell, with the amount of time that I've spent with this controller in various situations, you can't really blame anything that goes down in your gameplay on this controller. It inputs really, really well. And yes, it's Shmups. With its extra buttons, solid build, and plug-and-play functionality on PC, the Hyperkin Duke is a great controller for those with big mitts. It may take a while to get used to thanks to the Duke's weird button placement, and its wired nature makes for a better PC controller than Xbox One. But this is one controller we're certain to use for the foreseeable future. Boss is a pain in the ass.